Kids are expensive, so it's a good thing that owning a minivan doesn't have to be.
While most minivans can be equipped like a luxury car and cost as much as one, it's nice to know for those on a budget, you don't have to get it that way.
So we put in a call to 3 of the big players in the minivan segment. Ask them to send us their more frugal options. We want to really evaluate these vehicles without all the distractions of leather interiors, widescreen TVs, or even built-in vacuum cleaners.
Our first competitor is the Honda Odyssey. This is the LX model, which is the absolute base model. The only option added onto it are a set of alloy wheels, dealer installed from the EX upper trim level. By being the lowest trim model, this is the cheapest vehicle, undercutting the $31,000 mark. But it also means this is the least equipped vehicle. It's missing options found in the other 2 vehicles, like a power liftgate, 3-zone climate control, fog lights, and something that every minivan should have, dual power sliding doors. Sure, it's $4,000 cheaper than the Sienna, but it's only $1,200 cheaper than the Grand Caravan, and it includes other options like navigation, satellite radio, a remote starter, and powered third-row windows. These third-row windows don't even open. The Odyssey is economical in other ways as well. It has the least powerful engine with only 248 horsepower, and while on the road you can always feel that it is down on power compared to the other 2, it's also the most efficient. With the best EPA ratings, we achieved the highest average during our mostly city-based testing loop at 19 miles per gallon. Although this van isn't much to look at inside and out, it is the most car-like to drive. It scored pretty high on how quiet it is inside, as well as the ride comfort. Driver comfort was voted best in tests, although some staff members did not like the steering, which is overboosted and a little vague.
The Odyssey has solid second row seating when it comes to legroom, and despite the fact that the seats themselves look pretty low grade, they're actually quite comfortable. Access to the third row is made relatively easy by a feature that allows the seats to tip forward. Ingress and egress isn't quite as easy as, say, the Toyota, but this is a nice solution and it works even when you have a child seat installed. Unfortunately, once the seat is back in place, the third row passenger can't really reach the tab to flip that second row seat forward and, well, they're kind of stuck. Overall, third row room is the best of the bunch. Making the spacious cargo area even larger is pretty simple thanks to quick tethers that you pull to drop and raise the seats. Unfortunately, they do require some muscle to operate. Plus, I should point out that the Odyssey has the best safety rating of the bunch, both from the government's National Highway Transportation Safety Administration and the Independent Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. To summarize the Odyssey and really focus on what its best attributes are, I'd say it's the best choice if you really intend to use the third row a lot of the time.
Our second competitor of the test is the Toyota Sienna. Even though it starts lower than the Odyssey, this is the SE model and it came loaded up and pushed nearly $35,000. Yes, the SE is the swagger wagon, a term made famous by the rapping Toyota commercial from 4 years ago that made minivan owners feel cool, if only for a short period of time. Power from the 3.5-liter V6 may only be rated at 266 horsepower, but it feels just as responsive as the more powerful Dodge Grand Caravan. Fuel economy ratings are mid-pack in the comparison, officially rated at 18 miles per gallon in the city and 25 on the highway. However, the Sienna was the only vehicle that couldn't match its EPA ratings. It returned a mere 17.4 miles per gallon. That was, though, still better than the Grand Caravan. The SE trim is mostly an appearance package that makes this van mildly badass. It includes a sport-tuned suspension that does nothing but murder the ride quality of the Sienna. With 19-inch wheels, it is far rougher over pretty much any road than the Odyssey or the Grand Caravan. As well, we notice more noise makes its way inside the cabin because this vehicle is constantly crashing over bumps. Worst of all, the sporty suspension does not give you anything remotely sporty in the sense of driver handling. So it may not be sporty, but it is the easiest to drive. We all found that we could easily find a comfortable seating position, and driving down the road took no effort at all. This interior was ranked as the nicest in the comparison test in both terms of design and materials used. It's the only one where the hard plastics didn't look like they came straight from a dollar store discount bin. Our only real complaint inside the Sienna has to do with this tiny little display screen. When you put the vehicle in reverse, you need a telescope to see what's being shown on there. Other than that, this is the most pleasing place to be.
When it comes to everything behind the driver, the Sienna easily has the best second row of the bunch. The seats are the comfiest to sit in, and they have plenty of flexibility when it comes to moving forward and backward. In fact, it's such a huge difference that if you really don't care about third row legroom, you can push them all the way back and just have tons of space in there. And there are even some nice manual sunshades on this SE trim level model. The second row sliding function is so good that you can actually move them forward to easily access the third row without having to climb through the middle, which is nice because that's not even an option if you install the middle seat. As for the cargo area, the space itself is huge and ties the Odyssey in our double wide stroller test. Dropping the third row seats is easily the easiest of the bunch, requiring the fewest steps, just one really, and the least effort. If I had to sum up the Sienna, I would say it's the best if your main priority is the second row passengers.
The Dodge Grand Caravan is the #1 selling minivan, and with the starting price of just over $21,000, it's easy to see why. Not only does it undercut the Odyssey and Sienna greatly, but even as tested, our SXT only came in at $31,905. This is the most equipped vehicle in the test, but that's just a bit more than the bare bones Honda Odyssey. The Grand Caravan also makes the most power with 283 horses under the hood, but like I said earlier, it doesn't feel any more responsive than the less powerful Sienna. To make the most power also requires the most fuel. It's no surprise that the Grand Caravan returned the lowest observed fuel economy. At 17 miles per gallon observed during our city cycle, it was only slightly worse than the Sienna. Ride quality and interior quietness were both ranked pretty good in the Caravan, although some drivers found that the seat was hard to get comfortable in. The Grand Caravan does feature 3-zone climate control, but unlike the Toyota, it's not automatic. That means there are 3 temperature knobs and 2 fan knobs that need to all be manually adjusted. The touchscreen was also good and bad. We like that there's a large display area, but we found it was too flat and sat too far forward, and it gave a weird angle for the driver to see. Sometimes you got bizarre glares, and we had a small issue where it wouldn't go between night and day mode automatically. We did vote this interior to be the worst overall. It has the poorest fit and finish and just a bad overall design. But this vehicle is the only one that came with navigation, a rear DVD entertainment system, third row powered windows, and most importantly, a remote starter. And for added peace of mind, the Dodge Grand Caravan has the longest powertrain warranty in the test.
Perhaps the Grand Caravan's biggest claim to fame is its stow and go seating, with second row seats that flip up and fold completely flat into the floor, making for a huge amount of cargo room. Now, sure, with the other minivans you can remove the seats, but they're big and bulky, and really, if you're at IKEA, what are you going to do with the seats then? It's not like you can leave them behind. Unfortunately, stow and go seating comes with its drawbacks, and it's easy to understand why Dodge's rivals have not chosen to adopt it. They flip up with a simple pull of a lever, but then you have to remove the floor mats, fold up the floor, move the front seats forward, hide the stow and go seats, and then cover it all back up again. It's more work than it looks, but hey, it is still better than having to pull those big, heavy, clunky seats out. The real drawback of the stow and go seating is that the seats themselves have suffered some compromises. Namely, they're not that comfortable. They really are a lot thinner cushions just in order to make it so compact and fit into the floor. Now on top of that, because the floor opens up, there's not much of a track to slide the seats forward and backward, so there's not a lot of movement there. Meaning that if you want to get into the third row, you really have to climb over the middle seats in order to get there, especially if you have a baby seat installed. Speaking of the third row, those seat cushions are equally as uncomfortable with passable legroom but almost no room for your feet. Folding the third row down is easily the most complex of the bunch, with 4 different pull tabs that you operate in different sequences. It's confusing and it really is a two-hand job. At least it doesn't require any real effort, unlike the Honda. To summarize the Grand Caravan, it really is best if you intend to use it for more than just people, but really to use that cargo hauling capability and make the most of the stow and go seating, because otherwise it's not really worth the drawbacks. And the runner-up in our Minivan Shootout is the Honda Odyssey. We really loved its car-like driving dynamics, its best as tested fuel economy, and the fact that it had the largest third row. But as equipped here, it really doesn't have many features, and the interior just seems pretty cheap. And for that reason, it isn't our winner. In the past, I've really gushed over the Honda Odyssey, but it appears that when it's not all that well equipped, well, it may not be all that exciting.
And that brings us to the winner of the comparison test, the Toyota Sienna. True, it is the most expensive vehicle here, but it was dinged for that price, and the Dodge Grand Caravan is better equipped.
The difference maker might actually have been the Sienna's styling. Now, we actually ranked styling in our comparison quite low, but still the Sienna just ran away from the other ones because after all, if it's something you're going to be driving all the time, isn't it something you want to be seen in?
This is the SE model, and a lot of the extra price has gone into the styling. For a little less money, you can get an XLE that has better features, more important to minivan buyers, which makes the Sienna an even better vehicle. But don't get us wrong, this vehicle scored high in two very important categories: second row space and the third row's practicality when folding it into the trunk.
It really seems that when it comes down to budget-focused minivans, the Toyota Sienna is the one with the most swagger.